Hello, selectors, and welcome to the Life Burst Podcast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Tiffany. Welcome back, selectors.
Welcome back. I'm just gonna hold on a second, Tiffany.
What are you? Stop that.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm counting all these Wixoss coins I'm getting.
Ooh.
Because the new set, it's got coins.
It's got coins.
It's got coins. Now,
Money.
I hear you have some issues with not necessarily the coin mechanic, but the coin token.
You mean the card art for the coin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some issues with it.
What's your issues?
You really gonna make me just?
Let him know. Takatomi listens to our podcast.
Yeah,
I'm sure they do.
I just I like all the filigrees and stuff with it. That's kind of fun. I wish the coin itself was bigger on the card so it felt more like a coin, and not just like a door medallion is kind of what it looks like. But my biggest issue is the font gets really lost in the shine. And that is my hot take for the day. Thank you.
It's a pretty good hot take.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all. Didn't know that we were gonna jump right into hot takes today.
No. It's good to go in the hot takey sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Get toasty.
I'm trying to find this real quick. But yeah, so
We've got our notes in front of us.
let me just see here. Yeah, there it is. Here it is.
What are you looking at?
So I wanted to point out that one of our watchers, one of our viewers, one of our
Ooh.
selectors, Thought Prism,
Listeners.
who comments a lot in the comments down below.
Thought
has
Prism.
some pretty good stuff. He actually wanted me to add to the description below a file that you can use to engrave blank coins, because they sell that on Etsy sometimes.
Oh.
And you can make your own Wixoss coins if you don't want to use the ones that are provided in the pack.
Yeah, I won't be using the tokens, but that's because I really don't need more cards. I like the idea of like physical tokens.
Yeah,
personally.
I'm working on an idea to make some Life Burst podcast tokens.
Ooh, spoilers.
And then if we meet people at physical GPs and stuff, hand them out there.
It'll be fun.
yeah.
Let us know if that's something you guys would be into.
But if that's something you guys like, check the description down below. Maybe make your own Wixoss coin, because physical coins are way cooler than card coins.
I agree. And while you're down there, comment, like, subscribe. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about the best cards of Lostorage today.
Oh. Is it lost storage or is it low storage? I guess it's lost storage.
Yeah,
Is that the play on the words?
It's Lost Orage, and that makes me feel weird. I don't
Lost
like that one.
Orange?
Lost Oranges.
Shame. I really needed that vitamin C.
This is the part of the Wixoss set where the Elrigs realize they need vitamin C and they have to go find an orange orchard, and they go to Florida. It's a wacky set because it's set in Florida.
Yeah, we're in a wacky mood today. So today we're going to be talking about the top 10 cards of the set. Ooh.
But before we go into the top 10, I'm going to talk about some runner-ups, but this is going to be like a lightning round of runner-up stuff.
Yeah.
So as you can see on the screen, there are, in fact, going to be some slides so that you guys can see what cards we're talking about. First one's going to be True Honesty. This is a red piece that more or less basically says that you can exceed 4 and your Elrig gains the ability during attack phase timing, mind you, to vanish target level 1. This is something you're going to see sometimes pop up in decks, just because it'll mean that like it's like a red version of Burning Curiosity, but they can do it during attack phase timing, so it's a little defensive, which is nice and not completely normal. But you're not going to see it very often because red would be probably rather doing things like entwined whatever it's called, the one that does extra damage.
You guys know what we're talking about.
And then we've got Mel Present here. So Mel Present is one of the interesting Elrigs because it's an assist green level 2 Elrig with 0 grow cost.
And also main phase and attack phase timing.
Yep. And it also it blocks a lane, but then gives you access to Lancer a little later down the line. Mm-hmm. So it's a very cheap way to basically deal a damage and also save yourself a damage. There's not very many of those in the game.
I love that it's basically a rig that you can play twice.
Yeah.
Almost. Because it has a once a game ability that you can use later.
Love the design space. So then Pyraluke is here. This is going to be, has many abilities. It's level 3 Signy, 12,000 power. It's got an auto ability during your main phase when you discard a Signy, or when a Signy goes, when you discard a Signy, put that card from your trash to the field, right? So blue has a lot of these discard draw effects, so it helps you out there. It's also got an auto ability of whenever a Signy enters the battlefield from anywhere other than your hand, it gives negative 2,000. Not a lot of a buff, but a little bit of a buff that's worth mentioning.
Well, it also freezes the target Signy.
It does freeze a Signy as well. The other thing is that you can pay 2 coins, and if you pay 2 coins, your opponent discards a card. This is basically the only reason it's really worth mentioning is we'll talk about coins more often, but if you have coins, they're essentially free. So this is a free discard the a card in the opponent's hand, and that makes it pretty good.
If you all would like us to make a podcast going into coins more in depth, please let us know by liking this video and commenting down below.
Recovery is another card that we're going to talk about real quick. Again, these are all the honorary mentions. So these aren't ones that we're going to spend a ton of time on. We're just going to talk about the use case scenario for them. Sure. Recovery is a card that basically has a life burst. It's a spell. It costs 0, which is good. The life burst is discard a card. If you would target up Signy on your opponent's field into the bottom of their deck, you spin it down. It has bet 1 coin, so you can bet a coin. If you don't bet the coin, you draw 2 cards and you discard 2 cards. You got to remember that this card also is being played, so it's basically discard 3 cards, draw 2 cards. That's card disadvantage. That's not so great.
But if you bet,
you instead draw 3 cards and you discard 2 cards. And remember, you're basically discarding this card. So drawing 3 cards and discarding 3, you might seem like, well, that seems like a waste of a slot. It's actually really, really, really good in the fact that it means that you are basically doing free hand cycling and you didn't lose a card or an enter. So it's very good in that respect. So if you're running coins, this might be something that you might auto-include if you also have blue. But outside of that, it's a bad card.
You know what I just realized, though? They're looking at the crown that Pure Luke is wearing.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep. And then in Masked Legend, there's also a crown in there. That's it's a mask.
That's Carnival's mask.
That is Carnival's mask. It has a life burst. It is a vanish target up to Signy. It's a red spell. It costs 1 red. As in it just costs a single red. It's got a bet. This is coin. Vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with power 8,000 or less. If you made the bet, instead vanish target Signy on the opponent's field. It's basically like Eternal Influence, but if you're playing coins, it's free. So it's a really good spell if you're playing coins. If you're not playing coins,
it's still fine.
It's a fine card, but it's not amazing.
The life burst is great too. I mean, it's a perfectly fine red life burst, which is vanish target up Signy on your opponent's field. We've seen this one before. Honestly, I think that this card is very playable, especially if you're playing coins.
Sure, yeah.
If you're not playing coins, though, like, you don't get the extra ability off of it, but I wouldn't say it's unplayable.
Yeah, but I probably just play Eternal Influence at that point. The next card to jump in real quick is Brunhilde. Azure.
Oh yeah, you said that right.
I know. Thankfully, to our comments down below on one of our videos, someone told me how to say it. So now what? I got it. Thank you guys.
We appreciate you, selectors. you keep us on the straight and narrow.
So this is an angel, right? It's got a lot of text on it. It's an angel. Is angel support angel. There's a lot of angel support in this set.
Yes.
It's got a life burst. It's a level 3. 10,000 power. It's got a life burst of choose 1. You can either discard 2 cards. If you do, vanish target Signy on the opponent's field, which is actually pretty good in blue. And then you've also got the opponent discards a card at random. That's your choice of which one you do. I think the opponent discarding a card at random is probably better.
Always. I like picking out cards from the opponent's hand.
It's got a twice a turn effect of whenever an angel Signy enters your field, you may draw a card and then discard a card. That's not the reason you want to play this card. And again, I can't stress this enough. I know this is an Angel-specific card. It's actually better when you play it not in Angel support because of the second ability, which is auto once per turn. When an Angel Signy on your field attacks, hint, this is an Angel Signy, your opponent discards a card at random. So this is the easiest way to get a level 3 Elrig that discards a card from your opponent at random. So if you're into things like Bruno, and you have extra 3 slots available, this might be a card you want to consider.
Yeah, for your flex slots. Which we've talked about before.
Yeah, clearly this is better if you have angel support. I want to remind everyone that Hakat is an angel, and Exia is an angel, and Haniel is an angel. These are all easy to include angels. That don't necessarily mean that you need to put an angel support in there. But it is just a level 3 that makes your opponent discard a card at random, and sometimes you just want more discard support. Mugen, you guys might... Some people might be surprised to see Mugen in the honorary mentions and not the top 10 awesome cards. This card is super showy. I actually didn't want to include this card at all in our honorary mentions because I think it's a bad card.
Oh, another hot take for the day.
It's got a lot of wacky rules associated with it, which makes it a weird card, but weird does not necessarily mean good. It is important to recognize what this card does and why it is not super great. One, it is got a consumption of your limit by 7, which means that at most you can only ever play this card and a level 1 in your field. Right? You're going to have a lane open no matter what. It has multi-enter. That's cool. I mean, that's sweet. It's a level 3, by the way, with infinite power.
Yeah.
So if you're like, well, can I give it negative 12?
What the heck does that mean?
Yeah, if you're like, can I give it negative 12,000 or can I give it plus 5,000? Be like, yeah, but then it's going to go down to your like 3-year-old playground days where you're like, I'm infinite plus 3. So it doesn't matter. You can't kill this thing with negative effects.
Playground.
This thing will Lancer over literally everything, you know?
Yeah.
The other effect that you might be like, but Osagetsune kills it. These green effects that do X and higher, infinite is higher than X. That's true. Its other ability is they can't be moved to other Signy zones by the opponent's effects. So, or other zones, just in general, other zones. It can't be moved into other zones. So you can't really get rid of this. This sticks. There's ways to get rid of it, right? There are wacky ways to get rid of it. But generally speaking, this is really hard to interact with.
I mean, this is one that you could exclude from the game, right? Because then you're not moving it to another zone.
Correct. Yeah, there are ways to do it. So, but the Exceed 4 is put all other Signy into the owner's trash. You can only have this Signy on your field this turn.
Which would include your opponent's Signy as well as your Signy, correct? Yeah. All other Signy.
All Signy. Okay. So basically, Mugen wants to be the only thing on the field.
Selfish.
Then you're like, hey, opponent, I did the work for you. Go ahead. You got 2 lanes to attack through now. And then what's worse is you're going to have to enter this after that because you're going to want to fill out your lanes. Otherwise, you're kind of still screwed and you're keeping 1 lane open.
How is it going to be entered if it can't be moved to other zones by your opponent's
By
effects?
opponent's effects. You can enter it yourself.
Oh, like you're... Yeah.
Through the enter for field
option. Gotcha.
So this has a niche, a very, 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 very tiny niche, where if your deck really likes Lancer and wants to 100% ensure that it wins the game this turn, you can play Mugen. Mugen still can be downed, by the way, and Madoka Clap is one of the best cards in existence, so, enjoy that frustration. The other thing is occasionally you might want to use this as a finisher in a control deck. Outside of those options, this card's really bad. I just wanted to point it out because it has a lot of interesting things and people are going to ask about it.
Bad, but honorable mention.
Here's another one that a lot of people are going to absolutely lose their mind over. But
Me.
because they just like...
I'm people.
Lewat.
I'm so excited for this card, and I'm also maybe slightly disappointed.
Yeah.
But, we'll get into that.
Lewat is 100% angel support card.
Yes.
Right? So I'm not going to go super into it again because these are supposed to be honorable mentions. But Lewat basically says if your deck doesn't have angels in it, right? Like if it isn't 100% angels plus 4 guards, then it will throw itself away. Like it just trashes itself, right? It's got an amazing ability outside of that. It's a level 3 colorless attack power 10,000 that says at the beginning of your attack phase, choose one of the followings. You can either draw a card or enter charge 1. You can vanish target level 1 Signy on the opponent's field, or you can pay 3, and if you do, you can return any Signy to the opponent's hand. These are all really great effects. Really, really strong effects. You have to play it. You have to play an angel deck to make it work.
Yeah, but look at that art.
If you're playing an angel deck, toss 4 of these bad boys into your bad boys, bad girls into your hands and call it a day, you know? So the next one is going to be second to last honorable mention we have Yukimi. I don't know how to pronounce that one. How do you pronounce that one?
Yukime.
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 This has a constant, which is if the Signy in front of this Signy is vanished during its attack phase, you can put it into the trash instead of the owner's effect. So this is basically Chandelier, right? Mm-hmm. Chandelier can attack and trash something instead of ever vanishing it or going to the Elrig or sorry, the Enter deck. Mm-hmm. It's got some other abilities. You can spend a coin to look at the top card of your opponent's deck. Cool. There's some uses for that. Mostly the uses so that way at the beginning of your attack phase, you can declare a number, reveal the top card of your opponent's deck. If that card is got the same level as the number that you declared, you get to draw a card. Generally speaking, you're going to want to choose 1 or 3 if you're choosing this in the blind. It's got a better life burst than your Chandelier. Generally speaking, Chandelier can get guards back, so that's sometimes something that you want to think about. Mm-hmm. Put target up Signy on your opponent's field to the opponent's trash. If you're basically an Enter Denial deck, which this wants to be a part of, that's a better for the deck for the life burst than not. The real trick is going to be trying to figure out how to break the timing on the constant ability for this. So, for example, if you're playing Umir, if you have the ability to stack your triggers, you might, for example, do some kind of trigger that vanishes target Signy on the opponent's field during the attack phase. Mm-hmm. That'll then go to the trash. And then you use Umir's effect to switch its lane, put it into the lane that has a Signy on it, and then you're getting 2 trash effects for 1, you know?
Right.
And that's like a good way to break it. So you're going to be looking for something like that. I don't know if that exists yet. The only thing I can think of to do that is Modem Code Heart right now. And that seems a little iffy, but there will be other ways to do it in the future.
All right, this one is in Japanese. If
yes.
you can read Japanese, good for you. If not, we have the rough translation
I believe
on the
it's,
right side.
I believe it's pronounced Cilia. It's a demon, level 1 blue, 3,000 power. It says, enter ability, you discard 1 card from your hand. You can't get around that unless you have no cards in hand, in which case, cool, you got it out for free.
Yeah, this is very much like, this is very similar to that level
Boar,
2, 3
yeah.
red in the first set, Boar, where you have to discard a card to be able to bring it onto the field.
You don't have to discard a card to bring it on. You have to discard a card if your hand has cards in hand. If
right.
you have no cards in hand, you got it out for free. Great, good job.
There you go.
Its ability is whenever this Signy attacks, your opponent discards a card. Mm-hmm. The reason why this is on, it's a honorable mention, is because it is a Minimin already does this job very, very well. But Minimin might want a 5th and 6th copy of Minimin for your tempo decks. And this is your 5th and 6th copy right now.
I like that that it says when the Signy attacks, your opponent discards a card. Meanwhile, is it Minimin or Monomin?
And I call it Mono. I guess it's Monomin.
Monomin. It's that blue card that says when the Signy attacks, if you discard a card, then your opponent discards a card. So I like that you don't have to discard a card every time you use that ability.
Yeah.
You just do it once when it enters.
So if it sticks around longer, yeah, you do get better effects. There's also worth mentioning that it happens during the attack, which means that they can't Xenocluster this. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you want to stack your discards to be like, oh, Monomin's doing the attack phase. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of it's going to do during the attack. So that way, if they Xenocluster, they get 3 cards back in their hand. I'm still attacking their hand. But you have the downside of, I mean, this can get downed by Madoka Clap. Mm-hmm. And then you're just like, well, that's sad. I discarded a card for nothing.
Yeah, Madoka Clap makes me sad. But it happens. All right.
We're done the honorable mentions.
Yay! Here's the coin art.
Yeah, here's
so
coin.
You guys know what I'm talking about. But if you like it, that's fine.
So Tiffany, we discussed coins pretty much at length in this set coming up when we were just doing our dog walks and talking about cards. And the thing that we basically both came to the conclusion of is making coins, the ways to make coins in Wixoss, even in future sets coming out right now, all bad. They're all really terrible. The only ways that you get coins...
Making coins, not using them?
Correct.
All right.
The only ways that you get coins easy in this game is if you're playing currently Donna, Aya, or Rill.
Yes.
Those
are the center Larynx.
You get coins for 0 work, right? And that's the trick is, can you get coins for 0 work? And if the answer is yes, then you should play coin-based stuff, because basically it just means that coin cards are free now.
Yeah. And that also means that if you're playing Exceed with your coin-based decks, you get multiple effects essentially for free.
Right. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
So when you look at a coin card, you should evaluate it as such. Would I play this card if I didn't have coins? If the answer is yes, cool. Then you can play that in a deck that doesn't have coins. Currently,
Yes.
I don't think there's any card that exists that's good without its coin cost yet.
Yeah. Or it's better with its coin cost, and
Right.
so you should splurge for the coin.
So, but I don't think I also don't think there's any card right now that I'm like, I need to run one of these centers to gain access to, because this card is so strong.
Right.
I think right now it's like, if I'm playing Aya, Donna, or Rill, then I'm going to play coin cards. And if I'm not playing Aya, Donna, or Rill, I'm not going to play coin cards. And in those decks, with the exception of Donna, you have a hard limit of 5 coins basically per game, which means that you basically want to, if you do your math in your head, play a card that spends 2 coins, a card that spends 2 coins, and at least one card that spends 1 coin through the course of a game. And generally speaking, that probably number is around 10 coin cards total in your deck. That's it. So, or maybe even 8. So limit yourself to 8 to 10 coins per coin deck, unless you're Donna, in which case, go crazy. You're Mrs. Moneybags.
All right. So now we're finally getting into our top 10, right?
Right.
All right. Are we going?
Just down the order.
All right. Is this our number 10 slot, and then number 1 is going to be our top card?
Oh, I didn't put this in any specific order. These are 10 good cards.
All right. Let us know how you would rank these in the comments section down below, fellow selectors. Let's get started. What do we got?
Yeah, what do we got on the first one?
All right, we've got this Thoroughbred Phantom Beast Deity. It's level 3 Signy. And it says, at the beginning of your attack, this is auto, at the beginning of your attack phase, all Signy on your field get plus 3,000 power until end of turn. Auto, at the end of your turn, if the total power of this Signy on your field is 30,000 or more, draw a card. Enter is 1 red, 1 colorless. Put target level 2 or less Terror Beast Signy from your trash onto your field. It gets plus 4,000 power until end of turn, with a life burst of vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with 10,000 or less. Pretty good.
Yeah, let's break it down. So far, the team pump, right? That happens at the beginning of your attack phase, which is particularly nice because it means that it gets a lot of your cards over the Machina Smash sections. Machina Smash, and a lot of these do negative 12,000 or vanish 12,000 or less, and so getting over that hump is pretty good. The second effect, drawing a card. If you're a red deck, you probably want card draw, because it's very hard to get straight up card advantage in red.
Yeah, especially in a very heavy discard meta right now. It would be worth it.
And then the last effect on the card before the life burst is target level 2 Signy. That is a Terror Beast. There's really only one target that you're always hitting with this, like you're always going after, and that's Tengu.
Yep.
Tengu has the ability of, when its power is 12,000 or higher, it can't be downed by your opponent's effects. We talked about Madoka Clap how many times already in this podcast?
Yep.
So getting around Madoka Clap here is really strong. Not to mention, there is another Terror Beast worth mentioning.
Oh, yes, and we've spoken about this one at length before. This is the Buffalo Phantom Terror Beast God.
Right, which if a Signy on your field has 20k power or higher.
At the beginning of your attack phase, all Signy on your field with power 20,000 or more gain. Whenever the Signy attacks, you may pay red and colorless. If you do, vanish target Signy in front of this Signy with power 12,000 or less until end of turn.
Which is quite strong.
It's pretty strong.
So you can gain...
You're almost giving them Lancer in a way.
Yeah, so the trick is you want to play a Buffalo, followed by a Thoroughbred, followed by a bring Thoroughbred's ability to bring Tengu back, and then suddenly not only are you up a card because you just got a card from your trash, but you now have access, like Buffalo now has access to banish something on attack.
And Tengu gets Assassin
And
if you want to pay for it.
I don't think it gets Assassin. I think it's 1,000 off from Assassin.
Well, there's a lot of pumping that goes on between these 3 cards.
But regardless, you've got a lot of effects happening here.
So if you like playing the Terror Beast package, Thoroughbred is definitely something you want to add into that.
I think this is now a point where you're saying, if I'm playing red aggro, I'm probably going to play this package because it's so easy to put in. It's really easy to put in, especially because Thoroughbred's Life Burst is really good, and red lacks great level 3 life bursts right now. I mean, being able to kill something that's 10,000 or less, they're settling at level 1 for an 8,000 or less.
Yeah.
For free.
It's also better. It's better than Up Signy, because that doesn't always hit, and this is much more likely to hit.
And this helps you against the discard decks, right? The discard decks, draw a card, you get how many cards on your draw phase? 2. And then you use this ability to gain your 3rd Signy. Oh, look at that. All 3 Signy lanes are filled again. Even though the discard deck is trying to make it so that you can't do that.
All right. Let's move along. What else do we have?
We got Aya.
Level 3 Aya Center. Look at her. I love the art on this. This is so cute.
Yeah. So Aya's ability is basically twofold. You've got a once per game ability, which is that's by the way a blue Elrig for anyone who needs that information. Level 3. Target Signy on your opponent's field, you put it face down, you flip it. At the beginning of each attack phase, so that's each attack phase, your attack phase as well as their attack phase. They can pay 2 or discard 2 cards, either of those payments. If they do, they get to flip that back up.
Yes.
So the Aya deck, generally speaking, will enter deny you and also discard you, so that way you can't do that easily.
Yeah. This might also pair well with Hamlin, Master Trickster.
Yeah, ways to make your opponent so that way they can't pay these things easy. This
Enter deny them and tax them, and you guys know that we're a big Death and Taxes blue deck fan over here.
This is one of the only decks or only blue Elrigs that can open lane, aside from Umir version 1. Umir version 1 can easily open a lane as well. They delete a lane, right? So this is worth mentioning because blue doesn't have very many of these. The other thing that this does is whenever this Elrig attacks, you can reveal the top card of the opponent's deck. If it's a level 1 Signy, perform 1. If it's a level 2 Signy, perform 2. If it's a level 3 Signy, perform 1 or 2, your choice. And if it's a spell, you get to do 1 and 2. And 1 is draw a card, and 2 is discard a card. Both these are very good effects to have.
Yeah.
And you got to realize that decks are generally speaking geared towards being almost half level 3s and half level 1s. So it's basically 50-50. Or actually, excuse me, it's more than 50-50. It's you got a 50% chance to draw a card and basically a 50% chance to make the opponent discard a card or draw a card, whatever one you prefer. Generally speaking, I think you're probably even making your opponents discard a card.
Probably. Yeah. I like that ability triggers every turn, but also is very modular.
Aya is a true tempo center. There hasn't really been a true tempo center that we've found yet.
Yeah.
Aya is one of them.
And you get a coin.
You get coins. You get 5 coins because you also get 4 coins for the level 1, which is good because you'd rather front load your coins. By the way.
All right, coming in, we've got Nanashi Selection. I think we mentioned this one really briefly in our draft. What is it called? Sealed. In our sealed preparation video.
I don't think it was briefly. I think I talked about how I thought it was the greatest thing that you could possibly use in the.
Well, I think in sealed, it wasn't it the other one?
No, it's this one.
Oh, it is this one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one's good. Let's talk about why.
Yeah, it's less good and constructed. I'm not going to say use it in every single deck like I did in the other one.
Sure.
Nanashi Selection, basically you've paid 1 already prior at the level 1 to give 3 viruses to your opponent, right? And then you remove once per turn. Remember, this is main phase timing, and it costs 1 to grow. Your level 2 black Nanashi selection allows you to do one of the following by removing a virus from the field.
So you can do this up to 3 times across 3 turns.
Correct. You can either add a target card, target Signy without a guard from your trash to your hand. You can give a target Signy negative 10,000, or you can enter charge 2.
It's pretty good. I really like the wide selection of abilities on this one. And I think it's really cool that we're seeing more assists that you can actually use multiple times beyond the just single grow. It adds a little bit more threat to the field, where we're not just waiting for our opponents to grow their assist level 2 Signies, and then we're kind of like, cool, that's done and over with. There's a little bit more to consider in your longer games.
Yeah, I mean, and we're getting longer games. We are going longer, right? You are softening yourself to aggro by having this card in your deck. But it gives you more reach than your deck normally might have. For example, I will be running this in my Bang deck because I just need more ways to open lanes. But also just the ability to get stuff back from your trash is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Because now you're immune to discard effects for at least 3 turns. But you also are bringing back nightmare fuels for your opponents. They're like, oh, I got rid of that Xyz. And you're like, no, you're going to have to get rid of that Xyz 3 times, buddy. Or like, oh, yeah, Phalaris is coming back 3 times and you're gonna mill over and over and over again. You know? You've got ways to basically be like, you've thought you've dealt with this, but you haven't.
Yeah, I think Nanashi, especially this assist, is going to be really popular in upcoming sets. I think we're going to see a stronger presence of black than we have seen previously.
Yeah.
Blue's getting a lot of support, but I think black is going to end up being very popular.
And here's
because
a card,
of Nanashi.
Yeah, and here's a card that I'm thrilled to get. The next one. What is it?
We've got Mel. The Mel assist line. We've got Mel Revise, Mel Burst, and Mel Invisible. This is really cool. A little bit of justice for green. So with Mel Revise, this is her level 1 grow. It's a 0 cost grow, obviously. Enter, put up to 2 target cards without a guard from your trash into your enter zone. So you're basically getting enter charge 2 out of cards that you probably already used, or maybe if you're pairing this with black, you've already milled them in.
And it gives you control over the colors.
Yes.
Which is important.
That is also important. You've also got Mel Burst, which again is a level 1 with a 0 grow cost. Vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with that 7,000 or more, so it's a little bit more of a aggressive assist. Although if it were me personally, I'd probably do Mel Revise. And then for level 2, we've picked out Mel Invisible, so your level 2 grow Signy. With a grow cost of 2, main phase and attack phase timing. Enter ability is next time you would take damage this turn. Instead, you do not take damage. You can also discard 2 cards for an additional damage prevention. And you can pay 1 green to colorless for a 3rd damage prevention. And I think this is something that we've talked about before, where with the things that green is missing to become a stronger color for this game is damage prevention on demand, and this does it.
Specifically damage prevention, not negating Signy attacks.
Yes, damage prevention.
Because we have talked about how Tama has sort of risen to the top, being not only a really good control card, a good mid-range card, and a good aggro card, it's just seeing a lot of play. This says damage prevention, which means that unlike the other things, Madoka Clap and Disrespect, you can pay 3 of these and you can negate 3 Tama attacks in a turn.
It'll be a total cost of 5 enter and 2 cards to discard, which honestly I think is extremely doable with green, especially if you're pairing this with Revise to give yourself a little bit of a boost early on in the game with your owner.
Right, like it is finally you have a reason to splash green. This doesn't exist beforehand. No, I'm being honest here. Like, green assists, aside from Bang's assist line, which is above average, it's not exceptional, it's just above average, have been lackluster. And, you know, there are some green cards that you might want to consider. Osagetsune is a great card. You know, there's some green Lancery cards that you might want to consider. And you don't consider them because you're like, yeah, but the cost of that is me putting a bad green Elrig in my assist line. And this is a great one. And it also differentiates itself from Lion Disrespect and Madoka Clap, because Madoka Clap and Lion Disrespect do the same thing.
Just differently.
Draw cards and then negate damage. This line gives you something completely different. It says you can enter charge and negate damage, or you can vanish and negate damage.
Yeah, it depends on the kind of player that you are and the deck that you're constructing.
If you're playing a more aggressive deck, right? Like a more aggressive mid-range, this is a great choice for you because you don't necessarily need the card selection, but you might want the damage. Likewise, if you're a mid-range deck, and like white Tama decks will be playing this as well because they have trouble hitting their enter requirements. And you've said it over and over again when we've talked about just random deck construction. You're like, I feel like I'm low on enter. What if I added green to make me hit the enter? And I go like, yeah, but at what cost? This is at no cost. This is just free enter charge. So it gives you that buff that you might need for the rest of the game.
Yep.
Just to get over the hump. And it still does what we know is great, which is the three stop.
3-stop damage. Well, it's not a stop necessarily. It is 3 damage prevention, which is different than Lion, which says that it can't attack.
Right.
And Madoka, which downs it, which basically means you can't attack.
Right.
But damage prevention is also good because, it stops damage, but it prevents damage, which is different.
Yeah, this is better because it feels better if in this scenario where the opponent has 2 open lanes and you have Madoka Clap, you're like, I'm not going to get the full 3 stop if I Madoka Clap here. Whereas this, you go like, yeah, that's fine. I'll stop the Signy, you attack, I don't need to guard because I prevented the damage as well. Exactly. So it's a full 3 stop.
Yeah, exactly. It operates a little different in my opinion. I'm very excited about it. Moving on, we've got Miko Miko Kira Kira.
Okay, so this one's all me here. Miko Miko Kira Kira is a wacky card. And it's good. It's insanely good until you realize that also Miko Miko's level 2 assists are not great. And then it becomes like you're like, oh, I don't know if I need to use this or not. But this card excels at one thing in particular that has made Xenocluster so good. Right? I'll just read it verbatim. Main phase and attack phase. So you can use this on your opponent's turn. Draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards. If one or more card were moved from your hand into the trash by your opponent's effects this turn, instead, draw 5 cards and discard 2 cards. This is a level 1 assist line.
That costs 0 and has attack phase timing. That's very rare.
That if your opponent's playing discard, use Xenocluster. Right? This doesn't Xenocluster for enter. But we're in a discard meta right now. And the ability to get 3 cards, and not only that, it's top 5. You're looking at it and picking the best 3 cards.
Yeah, it's a good dig.
It's
not a good dig.
But it is a above average dig.
Thank you. It's not the same card.
It's an exceptional dig.
It is an exceptional dig.
It's really good. Now, here's the problem. Miko Miko does not have a great level 2. It has a level 2 that costs 3, and you can bottom an opponent's Signy, which is okay. It's really only okay. The other one that it has is I think it's called Miko Miko Goodbye, which is during attack phase timing. It's during the attack phase, during your attack phase, it makes the opponent discard a card at random. I think best case scenario that you're using this for your deck is 2 scenarios. Either 1, you are using this and you're an aggressive deck, so you're trying to make the opponent discard cards anyways, because you're trying to strip a guard out of their hand.
Sure.
And be able to hit in with some extra damage. The second reason why that you'd use this, and this is probably the more likely opinion, is because you want to run Xenocluster, but you've already have 2 really important pieces that you're running. So this takes the place of Xenocluster.
Right.
So you give up your assist line for Xenocluster, but then you get to run your things, right? And that, for example, Cosmos decks might like that. I'm not saying this should be used for Cosmos decks, but Cosmos decks might like that because they have to use Paradise Universe as a piece. So this frees up a slot there for you to use.
All right, moving on to the next one. Oh, I'm so excited. You guys know that if you're a longtime listener of this podcast, I love everything Ancient Surprise.
Guys, there are not just this one, because I know what you're about to say. It's a green card.
It is a green card.
We've already done one green card. This is another green card. Guys, there's even another green card that we're going to be talking about. This is the most we've ever talked about green for one of these.
Hashtag justice for green. All right. So here. First of all, let me just talk about some lore really quick. This one is super exciting because we are seeing Ought be an opened gate. That's why this is called Energy Door. If you missed the Ancient Surprise lore video, I talked a little bit about the background of this team, but that's what makes it so exciting. All right, outside of the quick lore lesson, this is a green piece, costing 1 green to colorless with main phase timing, and it is a dream team piece, which means that you need 3 different colors on your field.
Well,
and
it just means that you can't be.
Yeah.
You
have 3 Larig on your field with 3 or more different colors.
Yeah, that's the requirement, but Dream Team doesn't necessarily mean that requirement. I just wanted to clarify that because there are some Dream Team stuff later that says Dream Team, you have to have 2 blue elements.
Yeah, like a Dream Team just means that you can't have a team piece. Like you can
run it on a team.
You can run it on a team, but you can't run a team piece and a dream team piece in the same Larig.
Knocked it out of the park.
That's what that means. But this one has the additional stipulation that you have to have a tri-colored Larig team, which is why they show Ancient Surprise on here, the original tri-colored Larig team.
Yes.
All right. So this one reminds me a lot of Miasma Labyrinth. So its abilities are choose one of the following for each of your center Larig levels. Number 1, put up to 2 target cards without a guard from your trash into your enter zone. Number 2, draw 2 cards. Number 3, vanish target level 3 or more Signy on your opponent's field. Level 3 or more.
Every time they say level 3 or more, I'm like, ooh, we're gonna get a level 4 at some point, and this card will be even better.
Sometimes when they specify weird things, I'm like, what do you mean by that? All right. Or number 4, during your opponent's next turn, if you would be the first to take damage from your opponent's Larig, instead you do not take that damage. Which also, I want to remind you, would shut down things like Glory Grow, where you're giving something multiple whatever.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind. I really like this because, as you all well know, Miasma Labyrinth is a pretty good piece, and I like that this is kind of an echo of that piece.
Yes. So Miasma Labyrinth they are similar, and that is 100% correct to look at them and compare them, right? Because the decks that want to run them are probably the same decks, right? And they have to choose one or the other. What's the differences? And the differences are basically as follows. If you run Energy Door, the pros of Energy Door is that you get more raw cards to work with because you get 2 cards. And generally speaking, you only get 1 card with Miasma Labyrinth. You also get the ability to not have that guard that you're gonna use basically discarded from your hand. This doesn't give you a guard; it just negates the damage.
Yeah,
which is better. It is better. So again, discard meta. It is better. The difference here being, though, you're not milling your opponent out at all. Now, something I found with Miasma Labyrinth that's made me less love Miasma Labyrinth is I mill myself out as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like it.
I mean, if you're running black, it's not such a big thing, but it doesn't exactly feel good.
Yeah, I end up also doing a damage to myself. Luckily, I've got a proactive clock, so I don't care that I'm dealing a damage to myself. I'm usually winning with this regardless. But that's the difference. That's the main difference, right?
Yeah.
Now, I also want to point out something that when you look at this card, you should look at it with 2 different eyes. You should almost pretend like it's 2 different cards, right? The first one is what you said. You should think 3 enter. I get to draw 2 cards, negate a damage from an Elrig opponent from my opponent, and I also open a lane.
Yeah.
The other way that you should view this card is I get 2 effects. It costs 1 enter.
Yes, because you can put 2 target cards from your trash to your ender zone without a guard. So you're paying yourself back for using this card.
And so when you're basically saying I'm going to pay 1 enter to either draw a card and open a lane, draw 2 cards and open a lane, which at that case, it's like better Summer Lives Blues.
Yes.
Or I am drawing 2 cards and blocking an Elrig attack, which is great. Or I am opening a lane and blocking an Elrig attack for 1 enter. All of those things, all of those scenarios are really good.
Yeah, I like this card a lot, and I'll probably be running it in my future decks.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Next one is Can't Stop Pretty.
Aya.
Because you can't stop the pretty.
You can't stop.
Okay, so Can't Stop Pretty costs 1 blue, as in a single blue. I always mess up that. I always say, like, 1 blue, and then someone's like, okay, so it costs colorless and blue. And I'm like, it just costs blue. A blue.
A single blue.
A single blue. It has main phase timing, which is weird because it's technically attack phase timing. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Your center Elray gains the following ability for the duration of the game. This ability remains applicable even after your center is grown. It now has the ability to action, main phase, or attack phase timing, exceed 4. You can down target Signy on your opponent's field unless the opponent discards 3 cards.
It's pretty great.
If you're playing blue, your opponent probably can't discard 3 cards, so let's just pretend that this says down target Signy on the opponent's field.
Yes. But with the exceed 4, you can realistically only do it once a game.
Correct. You can only do it once a game.
Yeah.
So basically what you should be reading this as, more or less, is for a single blue, down target Signy an opponent controls as a piece. Why does this end up being on the top 10 list?
Yeah. Why?
Because it is a piece that stops damage.
Okay.
I mean, like, imagine you're staring down a Nobunaga. The opponent just gave it double crush. You'd be like, let me get rid of that.
Yeah. Would this be would you say that this is a piece that you want to just like activate right away? Or is this something that you still want to wait on?
I think you wait till it's appropriate.
And you have the exceed cost for
Yeah.
it.
I mean, you telegraph it, right? Like, once you use this immediately, right? You now are telegraphing that you have this ability that you could do at any point in time, which a smart opponent can start playing around that a bit. But it is the only piece right now that basically guarantees that you won't take a damage. And I remember back when we were running the spell interrupt piece in Nova, when anyone asks us why are you running that, the answer was basically to stop 1 damage. And this does it more efficiently. So I think it's worth saying that you might want to run this because then you can double down on your individual stopping damage abilities. And also, as the game goes a little longer, some people are starting to move away from Madoka Clap and are moving into like Madoka Dub territory, because downing 1 Signy is the equivalent of shutting down their damage output for the entire turn. And having more piecemealed versions of that, being able to shut down 1, shut down 1, shut down 1, or even using this with Clap, right? Because there are times where you're going to look at this and the opponent's only got 1 Nobunaga in the field. It's got double crush. Right now, if you're sitting on Clap, you're like, yeah, I kind of have to use it, but this is going to be crappy later because this is a trap, right? This stops that from being a trap. So like, no, I have the ability to shut down a single Nobunaga.
All right. Yeah, seems like a solid choice. Now, the next one we've got is a level 1 dual-colored Signy. Why is this one in your top 10?
Because red...
Seems pretty basic.
Red and white are the 2 colors that really like being monocolored a lot of the time. And red often says, hey, Hera ability, for example. I need to have different red cards on the field. A lot of these cards just like are even Nobunaga, for example. We were just talking about it. If you wanted to do all of its effects, you rise on a red Signy, you need to pay a red to vanish target 8,000 or less, and it costs red to get double crush, right? That's a lot of mono red requirements.
Right.
Black often wants to be paired with red, but you run into the problem where you can only fit 4 multicolored in your deck because there's only 4 level 1s that are multicolored. Well, this set brings us a second multicolor that's red and black. So now you can do 6, which is the requirement that you usually need to do to splash black into your multicolored black, or into your red deck. Or if you're the flip end, like you're playing Deus aggro team, you need to find ways to add more red into your deck because again, it really wants more red than what you can consistently do.
But you don't want to feel restricted.
But you don't want to feel restricted on your enter. So this just
Gotcha.
gives you the freedom in that scenario. It's
right.
weird because there's also a multicolored coming out in the set that's white and green, and it's nowhere near, and you can't find it anywhere on this list because we're like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
No. Better luck next time. All right. So now we've got Patra Type Dre.
Yeah, I always call it pasta because it's like one letter off of pasta, and I think it's funnier to call it pasta.
It kind of looks like pasta if you squint. I mean, she's slithery. She's like kind of snake-like.
She's a noodle.
She's
She's a pasta noodle.
she's a danger noodle. All right, so this is a level 3 Signy at 10,000 power. Enter, pay 1 green. Add target Signy from your enter zone to your hand. Enter, pay 1 black. Put target green Signy from your trash onto your field. Action once a turn, pay 1 colorless. This Signy gets minus 10,000 power until the end of turn. Target Signy on your opponent's field gets minus 10,000 power until the end of turn. This ability can only be used if this Signy's power is 20,000 or more.
Sure, and the card next to it is, and I'll get this one. I believe it's type Eins. It has the enter. It has it's a level 1 with power 3,000. Its life burst is enter charge 1. The next time you would take damage from a Signy, you don't take that damage. And its its action ability is that you can sacrifice it. If you do, target Signy on your field gets plus 5,000 power. If it's a Venom Signy, it gets plus 10,000 power. So
I see.
our pasta is a Venom. It's a very toxic noodle. And
I actually don't know if she's a snake or not, but she looks like a naga.
And so that would get you the automatic buff up to 20,000, so you can use its effect.
So this is your suggested pairing?
Yeah, so I really probably wouldn't run this without the other one in some portion, right? You can do like a 2-2 split, or like I'd run Patra as probably a 2 of, and then this other card Eins as a 3 of or a 4 of in the deck. The important things to recognize is there hasn't been a lot of good level 1s in green that have a good life burst. And this is at least no matter what, a usable level 1 with a good life burst. Then it pairs well with this other card. Now, I would be very hesitating to do that first green cost, because basically it's cost basically 2 because you're also getting the card from your enter to put into the hand. But you could, right? If you're getting a guard off of it, it's actually pretty fair rate is to pay 2 to get a guard. But if you're in really late game and you have a ton of enter, sometimes decks just need enter sinks. And this is a good enter sink for that.
Yeah.
Really what you're doing is you're probably playing either this as just a level 3 that's going to attack, and you're going to pay black to bring back Osagetsune or amino acid to the field, right? Or you are paying it to bring back the level 1 and then paying 1 to do the negative 10,000. And paying 2 to open a lane in green is still totally acceptable of a cost. So that's it. It's got more flexibility than your average green card does. I don't think it's remarkably powerful, and I do think you need to be in a black deck for this to be any good whatsoever. Black-green deck. But
Yeah. I mean, that's clear.
Yeah.
I would not put this in a green deck that has no black support whatsoever.
in a world where it's hard to make green requirements because there's so few green cards that are above average, this one is a green card that's above average. It will be outclassed in the future at some point, but right now it is pretty above average, and that's good enough.
All right, moving along, we've got this white card with a translation on the right. It's a level 2 8,000 Signy, and it says always means constant.
Yep.
So constant during your opponent's turn, as long as the Signy is up, this Signy gets plus 4,000 power. Pretty nice. And then the important one is the second part, which is auto once a turn. When one of your Lorigs attacks, target one of your Signy and up it. So most likely you would be targeting this Signy and upping it so that it gets so it becomes a 12,000 on your opponent's turn.
Yes.
It's honestly, can I say something? This is going to be another hot take. I like this better than Remember.
Okay. That's a hot take for sure.
It's a very, I mean, I know that they're not the same, and I'm not sure that you would run them in the same deck. Please feel free to disagree with me in the comment section down below. But I feel like with this one, you're actually able to utilize all the parts of this card.
Well, and just on its own, a level 2 with 12,000 power is pretty okay. You can also
It's pretty good.
You can also up other cards if that's something that you like. There's some kind of combo there, but really the combo,
like in the Nova decks where you want to be able to down whites,
right? And that's really where the combo kicks in, right? Is specifically Tama or Komai. Because Komai and Tama basically said, you can attack with one lane, but I need those other two Signy to not attack. So that way I can attack twice as the Elrig. This now says you can attack 2 lanes, and then you can up anything, right? And now I have the 2 available to use my Tama's ability or my Komai's ability. So this is a really key element in those types of decks that are starting to gain a lot of traction in the meta.
Is this an Angel Signy, by the way? I can't tell.
It's not. I believe it's a. I think it's an armed. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, that would make sense. I really like the angular, almost like halo. It's so cool.
Do you want to know what its name is?
Yes.
Picture frame.
I gotta go.
It's picture. It's look at the art. It's picture frames.
Oh my god, you're right. I still like that square halo though. I think that's really cool. And let me know if you guys want to see an objects deck. I really want to make something super just off the wall using picture frame.
I don't think it would be difficult to make an object deck in this game.
No, not anymore. Blankets going in there.
The next one is Bernice. It's a
Bernice?
constellation. I think it's Bernice is how you pronounce it.
Bernice?
Bernice is a name. I think it's pronounced Bernice because it's a star.
Sure. You know what? You guys let us know. Is it Bernice or is it Bernice?
We haven't gotten the English version of the card yet, so
it's up to interpretation.
we're jumping the gun here.
All right.
But it has a always ability.
This is a black level 1 Signy, 3,000 power.
Thank you for covering that. It's also Cosmos. That kind of matters. Cosmos Signy kind of matters sometimes. Anyways, as long as you have 10 or more cards in your trash, this Signy gets plus 4,000 power, which would raise it up to 7,000. The next one is Auto ability, which is when the Signy is vanished, you can put the top 2 cards of your or your opponent's deck into the trash.
Your opponent's deck into the trash. I like that is flexible.
The life burst is target level 1 or 2 Signy from your trash.
Target 1 level 2 or lower.
Yeah.
Target a single level 2 or lower Signy.
Yeah, I was just being clear with it's a level 1 or level 2 that you can bring back.
Oh, that's not what that says.
It does. It says target a level 2 or lower. So it's flexible. That don't have a guard from your trash, and you can add them to your hand or put it on the field. When we went over the Life Burst podcast, Life Burst reviews episode, that I love this type of effect. Sure. I love putting things out and then having an enter ability trigger, and because it's one of the few ways that you can now allow yourself to interact on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, you get a lot of utility out of this card. This card also reminds me a little bit of Baphomet.
Yes, and I think that's a good comparison.
Because it's Baphomet is also a level 1 3,000. Now that one's got a little bit of a lower threshold to become a 7,000, but this one has a lot of extra abilities that I think is worth the inclusion.
Yeah, I think they're 2 distinctly very different cards, although we've already had comments on people asking why you would run this over Baphomet or why you'd run a Baphomet over this. They're 2 different cards is the real answer.
Yes.
Baphomet gives you access to mill immediately and is aggressive because it's pretty much always a 7,000.
Yes. It's a level 1 threat.
Right. So decks like, for example, X might like Baphomet more because it allows them to have a huge attacker immediately while also simultaneously turning on Wing Slash, Machina Wing Slash immediately. Right? Whereas a more mid-range or control deck might prefer this because specifically it can mill your opponents. Right? If you're going these long games, and anyone who's played Baphomet knows this, playing Baphomet like 3 or 4 times in one game is like a death sentence.
Yeah,
Because you're basically milling yourself out.
Yeah.
This allows you to mill your opponents out, and every little bit matters, right?
Yes.
So generally speaking, if you're running this and I don't know, maybe 2 other ways to mill the opponent out, you will get a refresh out of them. This is also really good at chains into itself. You can bring a Bernice back to the field to be vanished again to get 4 mil. And 2 mil is not great, but 4 mil is good. That's sort of like how the numbers work out. So you get something close there. I mean, but the Life Burst also brings back Haniel. It brings back Lancelot. Brings back Rommel. There's a lot of reasons why you would like this Life Burst.
Yes.
And it is so it's just more versatile, right? You're not going to hit that 10 threshold until turn 2, turn 3, but turn 3 onwards, it's always going to be a 7,000. So a little bit of a slower deck prefers this card. So I like this card a lot. It's actually probably my favorite card of the set.
Whoa, favorites have been chosen. You guys should know what my favorite's going to be. You know it's Energy Door.
Energy Door is a really, really good one too.
I'm so excited.
I'm not necessarily a green. I know I keep talking about Bang. Green is not my favorite color in Wixoss.
What is your favorite color?
Just like Bang. I like black. Black is my favorite color.
Oh.
And so stuff like Bernice is just like really cool. It's like the flexibility of it. It's always got a mode that's good. That's what I'm looking for in a card. It's a really good floor. Like there's no mode on that card that I'm like, ooh, that's not super great.
Yeah, you don't feel like you're compromising on it.
Yeah, even
by putting it in your deck.
Even Pasta type Dre, right? Like has the ability to spend a green, get a card back from your enter, and I don't love that ability. However, is it bad? No, because if it gets a guard back for you, perfectly reasonable. If it's late game,
You could get a guard back.
yes,
It doesn't have that limit.
it does not.
No limit.
And it also is a good enter sync, and I keep saying this, but having cards that are enter syncs are good for your decks, and not enough decks utilize them right now.
All right. Is that our full list?
That's our full list.
All right. Well, I hope you guys got a lot out of this. These are definitely some cards to look out for. Obviously, we can't name every card because then this podcast would be like 4 hours long, and that's ridiculous.
It's already pretty long.
It's already pretty long. So if you have any additional cards that you think would be particularly good, or if you think that we've missed anything, please leave it in the comment section down below and let us know why. You know, we read all the comments. We look forward to it. We love having a conversation with you guys. So if you would like this podcast and you want to see more from us, please make sure you subscribe. And as always, may you always flip a life burst.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you next time.